What's up guys, Luke here from Luke's Points and Miles. Today I realized that a card has been popping up a lot in my conversational videos and has seen a resurrection in interest, and that's been the Chase Sapphire Reserve. If you're not familiar, this is the Chase flagship travel card, and while it's packed with tons of value, I don't have it, and lately I've been on the fence with getting it. See, I'm just not sure it will provide enough value for me to mitigate the premium annual fee. So I decided to do a real deep dive on the card today, and I want to review the card in a fashion that is specific to me, how I would use this card with my style of travel and spend, and maybe you can help me decide if the card is actually for me or for someone like me. I want to really dig into a couple features of the card, and I'm hoping that this personal analysis might give you an insight into how I choose cards, and maybe it will help you choose your own cards in the future. Let's start off with a little background on my strategy for 2024. This year, I'm trimming the fat. I want to really limit the high annual fee cards, and I'm canceling a few Amex cards just for that reason. Gone will be the gold and the platinum and their premium annual fees, and I want to really focus, at least on the point side of things, on two main issuers, and that is likely to be Capital One and Chase. See, with each issuer, I can have a premium travel card paired with a few low cost or no cost complimentary cards, and I don't have to sacrifice all my travel benefits. But can the $550 Chase Sapphire Reserve make its way into the system? That's a pretty high annual fee, but with my new strategy with canceling or downgrading my high ticket cards, it might just be the thing. Let's start from the beginning. The Chase Sapphire Reserve has a good, but not great sign-up bonus of 60,000 Chase UR points. This doesn't really matter to me because I would be acquiring the product via product changing the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which I got last year with an 80,000 point bonus. So this is really a non-factor for me. This next bit is important though. The CSR has a premium $550 annual fee and an additional $75 for authorized users, which I need my wife to have the card as well. You guys don't think I get to spend my own money, do you? Mrs. Points and Miles takes on the household responsibilities and a lot of the household spending like groceries and day-to-day expenses. I take care of the bills, so this would be a $625 investment yearly. See why there's so much thought you have to put into it? First thing to get out of the way is the CSR has a $300 travel credit. I look at this in two different ways. One way, this is a super broad credit and it's really easy to use, so I would value it at an easy full value. The other way I look at it is this. I'm prepaying for travel, which is not something I enjoy doing. So the first $300 in travel for the year is credited. Some folks really speak highly of this, but I'm not exactly excited about it. Let's talk about the card's earnings and how they would fit into a setup with Capital One cards. The CSR earns 5 times UR points when booking flights through the Chase travel portal. How often would I use that? Rarely, I think. And it's the same earnings as if I were to book flights through the Capital One portal. On a side note, hotels are 10 times through the Capital One portal and the Chase travel portal. I think those are really good earnings, but they are identical to cards that I already have. And like I said earlier, it's not something I'm even likely to use very often. I'd have to admit though, even though the earnings are identical, I would prefer to earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points over Capital One miles, and I think most of us would agree. The CSR earns 3 times on dining, which again is identical to my Capital One Saver One card, but dining is something I do a great deal of, obviously. So this, I think, would earn the space in the wallet for dining. The card also earns 3 times on a very broad travel category. This is good, but with my current setup, I'm already getting the same earning rate with my Ink Preferred card for only 95 bucks. So far, there's not a whole lot of appeal, but we haven't gotten to the real benefit of this card yet. Let's look at some more benefits and what they would mean to me. The card obviously gives one access to the Chase travel partners, but I already have access. The difference between this card and its junior siblings is that it allows the holder to redeem UR points through the travel portal with a 50% bonus. Here's how this could apply to me personally. I'm getting to the point where I like to fly international business class multiple times a year, and that is exclusively done by transferring points to partners. And it's making more sense at the moment for me to pay cash for domestic economy trips. Example being, myself and Carlos are going to Dallas in February to watch a Mavericks game. My family still does plenty of domestic economy flying, and instead of paying cash, using Chase UR points at a 50% bump might make a lot of sense considering those are considered paid flights for earning airline miles and credit towards status. So I would value this perk for sure, as it would be a big part of my shorter family getaways. Can I place a dollar amount on this benefit? Not likely, but I think it would at least help in part drive down the cost of that annual fee. I've used the Chase Travel Portal for flights a few times with a 25% boost with my Ink Preferred, and I think a 50% boost would make that technique more frequent. The card has a credit for TSA PreCheck or Global Entry, and I know a lot of cards offer this, and it's so often slept on. But hey, I need 3 of those credits. Yes, Carlos does have his own Global Entry, and yes, it's worth every penny and every minute or hour spent getting it. This is one of those perks that really changes the travel game, because we all know traveling can get super rough some days. So do I value this perk? Yes, absolutely. Dollar amount? The full amount. What is that? $100 every 4 years? So I will value that at $25 a year. I think it is that valuable. We still have quite a bit to go over because this is such a big full service card. So this is a good time for a shameless plug. I have my credit card links in the description below if you want more information or you want to support the channel. If you used my links in the past, I sincerely thank you. It really does keep this channel going. Now here we will get into some tricky parts of this card, and this is where things get a little fuzzy. The coupons. I'm going to value these at almost 0 for me personally, even though I can work some of them into my normal spending. But here are some examples of the coupons associated with the CSR. 2 years of Lyft Pink membership. This is supposedly valued at $199, and I think I would actually use Lyft 10 to 20 times a year. I'm not sure I would even notice the priority pickup, but it might actually be worth it because my wife would use the bike share every time we go to Florida. DoorDash Dash Pass for 12 months. I would add this to my Uber One membership. I won't place a value on it, but it could come in handy at some point. And I guess the DoorDash $5 monthly credit might help, but again, I'm not going to place any value on this since DoorDash is so overpriced anyway. Next, we have an Instacart membership along with a $15 monthly credit. I will still value this at 0. We used Instacart a little when I first got the Sapphire Preferred, and it was too frustrating to make it worth anything. I doubt we would get any value out of this at all. The Luxury Resort Program, I'm going to value this one at 0 as well. The more I prioritize Chase cards, the more I'm going to use the most convenient partner, and that's Hyatt for hotel stays. I stayed at Hyatt more often last year than any other hotel chain. I'd rather run a marathon than have anything to do with Peloton, so that's a big fat 0. But what about this Priority Pass membership? I already have a few Priority Passes, but this is a full pass, meaning it includes restaurants. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, authorized users get a full pass as well. So not only do we have access to Priority Pass lounges, which some of them aren't too bad, some of them are actually nice. In the event we don't have a lounge, then we may be able to grab a bite at one of the 37 different restaurants. I checked the locations against airports we fly to and connect in, and it looks like if I averaged the last couple of years, I would likely have around 10 opportunities to use this. And since we would have 2 passes, we could feed all 3 of us at $28 or so each, or around 84 bucks. I hate to say this, but that could easily pay a large portion of the annual fee. But on the lower end, this could mean 2 to 4 trips to a Priority Pass restaurant annually. Even then, there is some good value. A relatively new part of the Chase Sapphire Reserve lounge access are the new Sapphire lounges at LGA, LaGuardia, JFK, and Boston Logan. It's interesting for me because I could gain access for all of us when we travel as a family, and we'll likely fly internationally from JFK or Boston in the future. we will probably visit JFK 2 to 3 times a year, and we'll actually be coming back from Europe to JFK in June. This is pretty much a huge factor for me when it comes to at least trying out the Sapphire Reserve, because you guys can imagine coming home from a long European trip and having to sit in the terminal next to Adam's screaming and snot-nosed kids. Lounge access is another X factor for an easier travel day. I'll talk briefly about the travel protections. I would never have enough time or the attention span to list all of them, but it's safe to say that this card has a champion's pedigree when it comes to protections for both travel and purchases. And to top it all off, the card comes with a primary CDW. Now, 2 things. I already have this with the Capital One Venture X. I also don't normally rent cars. However, this is a prime benefit, and I would likely value this as someone who might rent a car once or twice a year. Now, for some X factor type considerations, how does this card fit my existing setup with my existing Chase cards? Well, it would allow me to eliminate both the Sapphire Preferred and the Ink Preferred, and it would basically be complemented by the Ink Unlimited, which is never really used, and the Ink Cash, which is actually used quite a bit. And I would still be able to add the Freedom cards in the future if I ever get below 524. In any case, when you have 2 Ink Cash cards, almost anything is 5 times. So earning UR points won't be a challenge with this trifecta. How does this complement or coexist with my Capital One setup of the Capital One Venture X and the Saver One? I don't really see much complement here. It really looks like 2 independent setups, but there are some differences on the back end. See, Chase UR points for me would be used for Hyatt stays and domestic flights within the Chase portal. Capital One miles would likely be better transferred out to partners for international business flights. So at first there seems to be mostly overlap, but when redemption time comes in, these 2 setups are very different. The Chase setup is also consistent for me when I'm earning more cash back, whereas Capital One miles are not very good for that. So this is my deep dive with the Chase Sapphire Reserve. This is a fairly complicated decision when you consider I'm looking to downsize annual fees. There are areas that can be trimmed instead of here. With Amex mostly out of the picture for me, do I need expensive Amex hotel cards this year? Not likely. And with the Reserve, I don't have any added pressure of using the coupons because I've already discounted them to almost 0 for the purposes of valuing this card. You can see I have my work cut out for me if I want to become a Chase fanboy in 2024. In any case, these are the things that run through my mind when I'm paying for my nachos at lunch. Again, if you would like to support the channel, please consider using my links in the description. And if you guys have stayed all the way to the end, I thank you and I appreciate every single one of you.